Hello everyone, welcome to Semi-Homesteading with Abby. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's video. Today we are going to learn a skill that I've wanted to learn for a while. We are making jam. So I found a good recipe for raspberry and strawberry jam that doesn't require any pectin. I know sometimes you can use pectin, you don't have to. From what I can tell, it really varies by fruit if it'll gel up well without pectin or not. So this one is pectin free and we are doing a raspberry strawberry jam. So I am very excited for this. Now I got the little tool that helps to hold the cans. I don't have a canning funnel, but I'm sure we'll find a way around that. Now the other thing is, if you watched my canning video last week, which was a fail where I was gonna pressure can and then I didn't, I was unsure about if I needed to water boil jam. And I finally got my answer. I looked it up and basically they said, you know, if you're gonna store it at room temperature, then you do have to actually water boil can it. But if you're going to store it in the refrigerator, just make sure to sterilize your cans and that should be just fine. You can just boil the jar beforehand and then pour the hot jam into the jar. So I have my raspberries, I have my strawberries. Let's get to making jam. Okay, so the other thing I need to do is feed my sourdough, because what is the point of having fresh jam without fresh sourdough to put it on? I was on a really good routine of feeding it twice a week because I was making at least 2 loaves a week, but I went on a trip and so I haven't fed it in over a week, probably in a week and a half. And so I'm not exactly sure how quickly it will come back and rise and everything. So I'm gonna feed it once this morning and then once again in the afternoon. And I think it should be just right back to normal. So I'm gonna go feed my sourdough and then I will do it again this afternoon and show you how the bread turns out. And I cannot wait to eat my own fresh jam on my own fresh sourdough. I feel like that is some sort of homestead milestone, you know? Like that is, I'm starting to get to where I want to get to. Okay, so this recipe just calls for strawberries, raspberries, vanilla, lemon juice, and sugar. So very simple, but it does call for different amounts of strawberries and raspberries. I didn't really care about the exact ratio. I just kind of used what I had. Some of them had gotten bad or a little bit moldy, so I took out my scale so I could measure the exact grams and kind of figure out the ratios of how many strawberries to raspberries I wanted, you know, how much extra sugar I would need, how to multiply the recipe, all of that. So the scale was very, very useful. So I'm just rough chopping the strawberries. Didn't have to rough chop the raspberries because they're already so small, but I always check the inside of raspberries for spiders now because I keep hearing these horror stories of worms or spiders inside raspberries. So I was meticulous. I checked every one. So this is the final amount of fruit, about 1,400 grams. And as you can see, the recipe calls for about 375 grams. So this is me doing the math and realizing that I need to multiply my recipe by 3.75. Once I had all the ingredients combined, I just left it over medium heat to simmer. And then it is time to sterilize my equipment. Also, can we just take a minute to appreciate this sweatshirt? It says, "I'll poke your eyes out," from a German town in Michigan. Favorite sweatshirt ever. That is a side note. But I filled up a pot to boil all my cans, and as this starts getting more liquidy and starting to simmer, that is when I start putting my cans into the boiling water with my special jar tongs. So great purchase. Okay, once I thought that the jam was to a proper thickness, I turned off the heat, moved it away from the heat, and let it cool for just a couple minutes. What you're seeing here is me scraping the foam off the top and off the edges for before I start canning. And so this is what it looks like with no foam. It was looking good, so it's time to put it in the jars. Now, I mentioned that I didn't have an actual canning funnel, so I sterilized a ladle and I just ladled the jam into each jar. Thought it would be a lot messier than it was. It actually turned out to be fine. I just had to take a paper towel and kind of wipe the rims of the jars off so that I could get a good seal with the lid. So, not the end of the world if you don't have a canning funnel is one lesson that I learned. And look how pretty the jam turned out to be. It actually made a lot of jam, 5 jars. Now they're small jars, but still made a lot more than I thought. Okay, so here's my sourdough right now, and let me show you from the top. It just didn't actually rise that much. There's not that many bubbles. So I really wanted to make a new loaf of sourdough for this jam. I just don't think I fed it enough to actually make it so that it's ready to make a new loaf. I want to feed it like a couple more times, so maybe I'll make a new loaf the next day. But for now, for this video, to put the jam on, I think I'm just going to cut a piece of sourdough from a loaf that I made last week. So, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think this one needs just a little bit more of a feeding before I make another loaf. So we're gonna wait on that. But the jam did turn out really well. So that is still usable, and we are going to do the official taste test. Okay, here's the final jam on my piece of sourdough. So let's go taste it. All right, so here is the final jam. It's looking actually really good. I was concerned that it was gonna be too liquidy, but I really don't think it is. I think like maybe next time I would go a little bit thicker, or let it boil a little more, but once it's refrigerated and everything, it seems to be a pretty good thickness. So maybe that's just personal preference. I was concerned about that, but I think it's actually fine. I have it on my older piece of sourdough bread instead of a brand new fresh piece, which is a little bit disappointing, but I'll live. So let's do a final taste test. Here we go. Yeah, that is actually some of the best. Let me not have a mouthful first. That is actually some of the best jam I think I've had. And I'll tell you what the key is. I accidentally put a little bit too much vanilla in it, I think. And so I just tried to offset it a tiny bit with like a little bit more lemon juice. Honestly, I really like having the extra vanilla. It tastes amazing. So I think for this recipe, it doesn't matter that much what your ratio of strawberries and raspberries is. Just add a little vanilla, a little bit of lemon juice. That is so good. 2 thumbs up. Well, that is it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have a jam recipe that you really like, I would love to hear it. Comment it below. Send me a link. DM me on Instagram. Any of those things would work. I think this is gonna be a thing that I end up doing for a long time. I love making jam, and I like how you can kind of customize it too. Like you can be creative with which fruits you put in, and it just seems very fun and a little creative. So I really enjoyed this experience. Thank you all again so much for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe for more homesteading videos, more videos of me learning new skills. I appreciate all your support, and I will see you next time for another video. Bye everyone.